The title of our press release says, "No more excuses, please." Edo State governorship election, a call for all to play by the rules. Distinguished invited guests, our respected partners, stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen of the media, we are delighted to welcome you to this media briefing. The Transition Monitoring Group, as you all know, is a network of over 400 active civic organizations and is the foremost independent civil society election observation group established since 1998. TMG, in collaboration with Edo Civil Society Organization, will deploy a total of 150 non-partisan observers for the Edo governorship election fixed for Saturday, 19th September 2020. The observers, who have been adequately trained, will be deployed across various polling units in each of the 18 local governments of Edo State, in accordance with the Declaration of Global Principles for Non-Partisan Election Observation and Monitoring by Citizens Organization, as well as in accordance with the provision of the 2010 Electoral Act as amended and the INEC group guidelines as amended. Throughout election day, TMG observers will closely monitor the process and complete our election checklist provided by recording answers to the question on the conduct of the election. So they are going to look at the setup of polling units, accreditation processes and voting, as well as counting of ballots. At the designated times during election day, TMG observers will send in their reports at near real time to the TMG State Election Information Center. This will allow us to share a truly and detailed impression of the conduct of Edo gubernatorial election, and also will be able to help us in terms of talking about what works and some of the shortcomings. I want to announce that all that we are in is going to be the situation room for the TMG tomorrow. So please, you can feel free to come in to be with us. Yeah. So based on this report, TMG and Edo Civil Society will be able to analyze and make available the final report of the conduct of this election. The Edo governorship election is one of the few off-cycle governorship elections conducted out of general election in Nigeria. Elections are about more than just election day, and as such, TMG has been observing the pre-election period by engaging the election stakeholders ahead of the election day. Just last week, TMG congregated stakeholders where observations and concerns were made about the forthcoming governorship election in Edo via a Zoom meeting, which was done with over 100 stakeholders. The following are the reports of the observation and monitoring of the political environment to ascertain the conduct of different stakeholders, level of compliance and preparedness by the Independent National Electoral Commission ahead of the forthcoming governorship election. Number one, Independent National Electoral Commission. There are undoubtedly pockets of challenges which have constrained INEC efforts in dealing with obstacles to the integrity of the electoral process, which often bedeviled our election in the past, operationally and logistically. There is need for INEC to judiciously use the remaining time, which is less than 24 hours, to tighten loose ends and create conditions for continuous addition of value and improvement to the electoral process. INEC's neutrality, non-partisanship, and utmost efficiency in this election should never be in doubt. No usual or new excuse will be accepted by the citizens and TMG because INEC had enough time to prepare for a credible election and the organization has enough past mistakes and errors to have learned from such bad experience to make Edo gubernatorial election better than previous elections. Experience, they say, is the best teacher. The nation and voters are tired of routine challenges, of late arrival of election materials and officers, delay in accreditation and voting, card readers' failure, missing names of voters, and other mistakes and so-called human errors. This is a time to move forward and move better. INEC should walk the talk and put into practice the assurance given to the electorate and the nation that the election will be free and fair. There is actually no justification or any reason to fail. We urge INEC to up its game and strictly play by the provisions of the Electoral Act while responding appropriately to issues as may occur as the election progresses. INEC owes a duty to all, irrespective of their political affiliation, to be fair, impartial, and non-partisan in its relations while creating a level playing field for all parties and contestants. The success or failure of this election to meet international standard will determine the fate of other elections, particularly Ondo election, and the attitude of electors to INEC's credibility to conduct election. Number 2, the security. About 2/3 of Edo State, 13 out of 18 local government areas, is on security red alert due to pre-election violent activities of some political gladiators who have seen election as a do-or-die affair. Because for them, politics is not about service to the people, but a profitable business. So, security personnel, most especially policemen deployed for election activities, should never be found wanting in discharging their duties responsibly, professionally, without bias on election day. All are equal, no special preference to position or status. TMG is very much aware of the presence of governors from other states in the state to support their candidates on the eve of election. TMG condemns this practice of unnecessary last-minute solidarity, which is capable of heightening tension in the state and can intimidate security agencies. Such solidarity should have been limited to the campaign period. Their presence will worsen cases of vote buying and political tension, judging from the nation's experience in the past election, where invading governors came to states having election with bags of their state funds, their security details, and political thugs conducting themselves irresponsibly due to their immunity. This is unpatriotic and crisis reading. This style should be stopped. The developments in the state in recent times suggest heightened tension, increased mutual fear and suspicion, as well as inclination for violent confrontation and lawlessness, threatening lives and property of ordinary citizens, and undermining the chances of having free, fair, non-violent, and credible election, even in the midst of the lingering COVID-19 global pandemic. The increasing spate of allegation and counter-allegation being bandied about by the political parties and their candidates is becoming very worrisome. It is quite unfortunate that politicians have turned political campaigns and rallies to theater of war, while places like Oredo and Iyamo in Edo Central and Edo North local government areas, respectively, have become political hotspots in recent times, especially with unlawful movements of armed thugs as reported in the state. We call on security agencies to strictly pay attention to adequate security measures so as to prevent any outbreak of law and order, and we also hope that they will remain neutral throughout the process of election and thereafter. On political parties. Some political parties have deliberately promoted political banditry as politics. We condemn this. Since the inception of the political campaign in the state, The two major political parties and their candidates have been seen trading in war of words with different allegations and counter-allegations. Given the weighty nature of this allegation, there is need for political parties and their followers to conduct themselves in a responsible manner. Political parties should embrace the obligation imposed on them by the law in the best interest of our country. We therefore urge all political parties to work together by embracing peace so as to restore normalcy to the electioneering process in the state. The country is already palpitating with fear and very much embroiled in violence. As such, another spate of violence is disastrous and inimical to the stability of the country. TMG calls for the establishment of the electoral offences mobile courts to deal with electoral offenders with dispatch before and on the day of the election as a way out to lessen violence on the day of election. TMG will work to make necessary intervention in this regard. In other countries like Liberia and some other countries in Africa, they have the mobile court, and the mobile court starts sitting like a week before the election and sits on the day of election and another like 1 week after the election. And what that does is that when there are threats of electoral violence, they take them to that court and the court will summarily make judgment. So if, for example, the kingpin of a particular political party has been arrested and, jailed during that election, that can also help in terms of lessening the tension and also creating some form of precedent that will deter others from doing that. So we call on all voters to come out en masse and vote for the candidates of their choice without fear or inducement. The power to elect belongs to the states and the people of the state. And the people of the state must be ready, to vote and follow their votes. The TMG Situation Room Election Observation Platform, like several other observation missions, will make election malpractice a high-risk business during the coming election. Going forward, we will be reaching out to you and the public on each phase of election day process. Through our election day, TMG and its partner, EDO Civil Society, will provide updates on the conduct of election based on the near real-time reports from the observers. This will be released at Election Day Information Center and posted on social media, on TMG Facebook and on Twitter and other handles. TMG would also share its preliminary finding on the conduct of the polls. We therefore encourage members of the media, partner, and other stakeholders to take time to visit our Election Day Situation Room. The center is situated here in Rondeki. We call on the people of Edo State to take their fate in their hands by exercising their franchise during the election and remain resolute in their bid to entrench enduring democracy and rule of law in Nigeria. We also urge stakeholders to work harmoniously towards a peaceful, free, fair, and transparent election. Nigeria elections have been marred by violence in the past, so TMG calls upon all candidates and political parties to help ensure election is peaceful on election day and thereafter. TMG it's also trying out another initiative beyond election observation, which is what we call the citizens' observation. The essence of the citizen observation is for us to link up with Nigerian citizens that are going to be on the queue tomorrow, who are going to be voting as citizens observers. So we have made our platform available, and we are sending our phone numbers, WhatsApp number, SMS across the state, where we expect citizens who are voters, who are standing on the queue, who would send to us whatever they found on the queue, which is beyond the traditional observation that it's been done in Nigeria in the past. We believe that the citizens have a role in terms of mandate protection, in terms of ensuring transparency and accountability in this election. So we are pushing observation back to the table of the citizens to give us a real-time, report. So we are circulating that, across the state so that we can get information from Nigerians as the election is going. As you all know, TMG and its partners, EDO State Civil Society Organization, we are very much interested in letting the vote count, and we want to really thank you for taking that time to visit us this morning. Thank you, and God bless you. There are several other election observers organizations, and what we are also all doing is to complement the work of one another. So we're also going to be linking up with, there's a central port, there's the election situation room, so we're all going to be linking up with different election partners, as this is going on. But for TMG, we are focusing on, and the 150 observers are strategically placed. So our emphasis is actually more on the citizens observers. Our experience in the past has also shown that when you are an observer and you are clothed in your observer's uniform, there are also a whole lot of things that people want to hide from you because they want to there's a make-believe about when you're there. They want to give you the impression that everything is going on well. So we're actually going to focus more on reports from citizens observers, and we already have scientific way on also double-checking the reports that is coming out from citizens. So in a way, with our link with the citizens, we're going to be actually monitoring over 3,000 wards for the elections.
Thank you.
And there is also a constitutional review that is going on, and CMD is submitting memorandum to that review process, as a way of highlighting some of the areas that we think in the Constitution that deals with electoral reforms that needs to be responded to. There is also a whole lot of work going around in terms of electoral reform. Well, I would say that just as a whole lot of issues in Nigeria where people keep pushing, I think we will keep holding the government accountable to the shortcomings and failures in the electoral process. If you look at between 2010 and now, there's been some reforms in the electoral process. They might not have been very substantial, but by implication, what it means is that, gradually we are moving there. So we'll not be deterred. Even if we are not seeing immediate results, it does not mean that there are no results. So we will keep pushing our recommendation and keep holding the government accountable. And there is also a constitutional review that is going on, and CMD is submitting memorandum to that review process, as a way of highlighting some of the areas that we think in the Constitution that deals with electoral reforms that needs to be responded to. There is also a whole lot of work going around in terms of electoral reform. Well, I would say that just as a whole lot of issues in Nigeria where people keep pushing, I think we will keep holding the government accountable to the shortcomings and failures in the electoral process. If you look at between 2010 and now, there's been some reforms in the electoral process. They might not have been very substantial, but by implication, what it means is that, gradually we are moving there. So we'll not be deterred. Even if we are not seeing immediate results, it does not mean that there are no results. So we will keep pushing our recommendation and keep holding the government accountable.